President Biden has announced that he will run for another term as president. Today, I talk one-on-one with one of his supporters, United States Congressman Jim Clyburn, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. United States Congressman Jim Clyburn, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. There's so much to talk to you about right now, Congressman, from obviously President Biden's re-election bid to obviously your issue, the Democratic issues right now with Republicans. Let me just jump right into President Biden and his re-election bid. This is coming from CNN. It says this: President Biden announced re-election bid saying battle for nation's soul isn't complete. The president says this, quote, "When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we are in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are," unquote. Let me ask you this, Congressman. What is the battle right now, and what is the soul for America?
Well, I think the soul of America rests in the preamble to the Constitution, which is in search of a more perfect union. An admission by the founders that we aren't perfect and will never be perfect. But we always should be in pursuit of perfection. And that's been what this country has been about for most of its existence. Now, I say that because this country was a country before slavery was abolished. This country had a period, only around 13 years of Reconstruction. That came to a close with Jim Crow laws. The Supreme Court stepped in 1954 to rid us of that as a soulful pursuit. And we have been on a journey since then of demonstrating that this country is here for everybody. And so if you're looking for the soul of this country, I think it can be found in the observation made by Alexis de Tocqueville that I talk about a whole lot. And when he wrote that America is not great because it is more enlightened than any other nation, but rather because she has always been able to repair her faults. And that's what it's all about. Whatever may be at fault, you seek to repair it. That's what Lincoln was doing with the Emancipation Proclamation. That's what the Supreme Court was doing with Brown v. Board of Education. That's what the Congress was doing with the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And that's what we have been in pursuit of. And so that's what Joe Biden is talking about. For the last, during the last administration, it goes without saying that this country made a marked departure from that pursuit. And that's what Joe Biden is talking about. Getting the country back on track. Getting us, once again, on our pursuit of a more perfect union.
How could the president repair its faults when 70% of the people, Congressman, does not want him to run again?
Well, you know, I don't know about that number. That number may not reflect. It does not reflect what I hear and see. When you look at the polling data, it says to the contrary. The fact of the matter is, the country, people in the country are always in looking for somebody else or something else. There's an old saying that I grew up with: the grass is always greener on the other side. But as Joe Biden says very often, compare him to the alternative, not to the Almighty. And so when you're sitting down in your living rooms looking for comparisons, and you don't have one other person or two other people to compare with, you might compare him to what may be the perfect. And nobody is perfect.
So how is that grass now with Joe Biden on the lawn as the president of the United States?
Well, I think you see it all in his proposals. When he became president, within 2 months, we passed the rescue plan. That plan rescued this country's economy, put children back in school, put people back to work, got vaccinations in people's arms. Compare that to the alternative, which we had just experienced, when we had a president who was saying, you don't need to be vaccinated. Just put some Clorox in your veins. That's the kind of foolishness that we were up against. So that's what Joe Biden did. And aside from all of that, while the alternative was giving a $2 trillion tax cut to multimillionaires, Joe Biden came along and put on the child tax credit that lifted over half of the children of poverty out of poverty. That's what you compare him with. Then we went to the infrastructure bill. We passed an infrastructure bill a few months later to rebuild the roads and bridges and repair the bridges in this country, compared to an administration that spent 4 years saying this is going to be infrastructure week. I challenge anybody to tell me when we had a single infrastructure day for 4 years. That's what you should compare this man to. Then we passed the Chips and Science Act. When all the jobs, manufacturing jobs in this country are going overseas, we are now bringing, because of this bill, bringing those manufacturing jobs back here in my hometown of Columbia. A big notice was just given by the governor that Volkswagen is going to be hire 4,000 people. They're going to open a plant here right outside of Columbia to build their Scout SUVs here in Columbia. Volkswagen plant down in Berkeley County. I'm going to Charleston tomorrow, Thursday night, right. And I'm going to be with the Boeing people, a $47 billion airplane deal that's going to be built there in North Charleston. None of this would have been happening without that infrastructure bill. New plant right outside of Columbus, Ohio, a new manufacturing plant upstate New York. Show me one infrastructure project that was built, one manufacturing job that was created by the previous administration. So that's what this is all about. And you look at the Inflation Reduction Act. I just had this morning my lecture at the University of South Carolina on health disparities. Okay. And the big lecture today was on diabetes, insulin costs, capped at $35 for seniors. One lady got up and testified for one vial of insulin was costing her $270. That's what this guy is doing. And let me talk about the PAC Act. Okay. The PAC Act is all about our veterans. And people keep talking about what the president did because of those burned pits in Afghanistan and Iraq. We, with the PAC Act, went back and picked up all of those men and women coming back from Vietnam who were exposed to Agent Orange, who got 15 and 20% disabilities when they should have been getting 90 and 100%. We picked them up with the PAC Act. While the Republicans talk about how much they believe in defense, Joe Biden is talking about how much he believes in the people who provide the defense, putting people over politics. So that's what we're doing, and that's what you're going to have to compare with. Now, so when you get ready to vote next year, I'm going to say to your viewers, when you get ready to vote next year, compare Biden to the alternative. And if you're looking for somebody who will live the life of Christ, I don't think you can find any politician I know.
But Mr. Clyburn, honestly, President Biden has been in office for 4 years. So how could you all continue to compare it to the previous administration? What has President Biden done wrong?
What has he done what?
Wrong.
What has he done wrong? I
Yes,
just
sir.
told you what he's done. And you call that wrong?
You told me what he's done right, but what has he done wrong?
Let me ask you this. If black unemployment is at its lowest level in the history of the country, was it that way under the previous administration? Was it that way under the administration before that? You call that wrong? If you see seniors not having to pay more than $35 a month for insulin, is that wrong?
What is the unemployment rate right now, the black unemployment rate in your district?
I have no idea what the black unemployment rate in my district is. We do it by states. We don't do it by congressional districts. We do it by states. The black unemployment in my state is low. I wish y'all would just go out and find something to really talk about. Y'all just making stuff up.
Well, I'm not here to make anything up. I'm only going by facts. But what is the how low is the unemployment rate here in South Carolina then? And what do you compare that to, say, 4 years from ago?
I have no idea what you're talking about. The black unemployment in South Carolina is lower than it's ever been.
So what is the rate now?
Unemployment for everybody in South Carolina is lower than it's been in 2 or 3 decades. Those are the facts.
So numbers wise, where are we as far as being low? Is it 20%?
I have no idea. Ask the governor. I don't keep up with that.
Okay.
The unemployment. I used to work in the employment.
I know.
At the Employment Security Commission. I don't work there anymore.
Right.
So I don't keep up with that. I just look at what is published. And according to the published information, the black unemployment in South Carolina, unemployment for black and white in South Carolina is lower than it's been in decades.
So what are the top jobs right now in South Carolina that's keeping the unemployment rate for blacks low?
Well, I just mentioned, if you're going to build $47 billion worth of airplanes at Boeing, that's one place. If you're going to be building thousands of Volvos in Berkeley County,
yes, sir,
that's another place. If you're going to start building Scouts here in Richland County, that's another place. You go all over. The jobs are being created. I don't see all this gloom and doom people seem to be talking about. These Russian bots or whatever you call them, and this tweeting that's taking place is all foolishness. It ain't true by any stretch of the imagination. So look at the facts, not the tweets, because we know the tweeting is done by people who've got some vested interest. And let me give you an example. Every time I look around, I'm hearing from somebody who asks me, why didn't you do this? For instance, I saw a tweet the other day saying Jim Clyburn is supported by Big Pharma.
Is that true?
Yes, it's true. And let me tell you why it's true. Look at my voting record and see whether or not I vote with Big Pharma on the votes people scored. And the answer to that question is no. You know why Big Pharma supports me? Because I am a big proponent of research. Big Pharma does research. My late wife died from diabetes. I want to find a cure for diabetes. My mother died at 55 years old from cancer. I want to find a cure for cancer. You ain't going to find that cure at the drugstore. You're going to find it in research labs. And so I secure as much money as I possibly can for these universities to do research. That's why the medical university named this research park in my honor. Sure, not because I'm doing anything else. If you got anybody in your family with cancer or with diabetes, you want research to get done.
Yes, sir.
Who is doing the research?
Yes, sir.
Drug companies do research.
So
how do we cure polio? How do we refrigerate blood? All these things are done with research. I am the biggest funder of research that you will find in America because I want to rid us of cystic fibrosis, multiple sclerosis, heart disease. And that's why they support me.
So okay, they support you. You do the research. So how much money did you get in your campaign from them?
I have no idea. None whatsoever.
Did they support you the last time?
They've always supported me ever since I've been in office.
And you in office, so for the past, say, 30-something years, they have supported you?
Oh, yeah. But they aren't the only ones that support me. The AME
financially?
Church.
Financially?
AME Church support me financially.
But how about the big pharma?
Yes, they do. Okay. And I want them to.
Okay. Now,
so what's wrong with that? Nobody's accused me of being religious because the AME Church supports me.
No, I'm talking about big pharma. I'm talking about big pharma, not the AME.
So what's wrong with big pharma? Don't you want the research to be done? Do you have anybody in your family with cancer? Do you have anybody in your family with diabetes? You think you can cure cancer, diabetes by tweeting, or you going to cure it by doing research?
Well, speaking of research, Congressman, how many of those people in your district actually have diabetes and cancer right now?
How do I know? My wife had it. That was enough for me.
I understand that.
So I don't know how many. I take medicine every day to keep from getting it. I've got 3 daughters. Sure. They take medicine every day to keep from getting it.
Sure.
Because somebody did the research and said that metformin is a pill, if taken, can prevent the onset of diabetes. How did that happen? That didn't come from clipping coupons. That came out of a research lab.
Well, Congressman, what can you teach your constituents as far as eating right and living right to avoid all of this? Besides
eating right and living right has got nothing to do with this. My father-in-law was 180 pounds. Never was more than 180 pounds. But he was a double amputee because he inherited diabetes. So I don't care what he ate. I don't care what my wife ate. She got the diabetes from her daddy.
Speaking of tweeting, because I have to move on, you said this about the Republicans, quote, the reckless cuts to critical investments in Speaker McCarthy's ransom demand would cost an estimated 780,000 jobs, cut the GDP growth, and obviously increase the likelihood of a recession, you said. Once again, Republicans are pitting politics over American families. But Congressman, didn't the Democrats do the same thing when you all had the power?
No, we didn't. And just check the record. No, we didn't. How we got the Affordable Care Act? We got the Affordable Care Act because look, yeah, we're gonna raise the debt limit, but we don't do it at the expense of poor people. What did the Republicans do when they came into power? They gave the multi-millionaires a $2 trillion tax cut. Compare the Affordable Care Act to the $2 trillion tax cut. Republicans passed or introduced 70 pieces of legislation to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. How many bills did they introduce to get rid of that unseemly tax break they gave to millionaires? So you all ought to start reporting what the Republicans are doing and compare that to what the Democrats are doing. I don't ever hear y'all talking about how bad that tax cut was for poor people.
But now that President Biden's office, you have huge expenditure levels that have led to high inflation, increasing job layoffs, higher interest rates, bank failures, and it actually impacts the lower middle class proportionally, according to my research, Congressman.
No, so, that's according to the Republicans.
No.
Which is true. Oh yeah, that is. Inflation has been going down every day. And look at the record.
Well, how much has it
getting that information from?
I'm doing my research. But how much has the inflation gone down in your particular district? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm going to let you figure that out. I have no idea.
Any increase?
You've never seen inflation numbers based on congressional districts. You have never seen that. And you never will see that.
Well, how about any increased job layoffs?
You have not seen that by congressional districts.
Well,
you see that by states.
Well,
you've never seen that by congressional districts. Y'all keep talking about my congressional district. You've never seen any numbers based on my congressional district.
Well, how about the state of South Carolina then?
I'm telling you, it's the lowest it's been in decades.
Numbers wise.
The levels are lower than they've been in decades.
I'm still trying to get the numbers. I'm sorry.
I have no idea what the numbers are.
Okay.
You say you do research, you find it.
Well, they're telling me that you have.
I fund research. I don't do research.
Well, I understand that too. But let me ask you this: with Ukraine, I know that we have sent over billions of dollars to Ukraine, but can the average taxpayer congressman see the audit for the Ukraine to see how much our billions of dollars are actually being spent?
And you tell me that you aren't mouthing what the Republicans say? The Republicans are the only group of people I know that don't want to fund Ukrainians to fight off communism. No, you didn't get that from any research except from Republican talking point. And that is Marjorie Greene Taylor. Even the speaker said today, he came out against the Russians in favor of Ukraine. Said we're going to fund Ukraine. So I don't know where you're getting your information. McCarthy has walked away from y'all on that.
I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm just a journalist.
Well, stop using the Republican notes.
That's not Republicans' notes, Congressman. But let me ask you.
I get them every day. They think I'm somebody else. I get their notes every day. I know exactly what the Republicans put out. I can take you to my device right now and show you what they put out this morning.
Oh, I see the tweets
I get
myself.
their stuff. And I know the stuff you're saying came from the stuff they put out.
No, I don't know. That's untrue.
It's not what Democrats put out.
Well, let me ask you this. Apparently, back during the campaign time, you allegedly funneled 6 figures worth of campaign cash to 2 of your family members due to 2022 campaign cycle filing shows. Your campaign was forking tens of thousands of dollars allegedly over to a company that is linked to your son-in-law. You reportedly also sent nearly $100,000 to your grandson, according to the Federal Election Commission records shows. So why were you using campaign funds to pay your family members?
Because they run the campaign. Did you check to see how much Buttigieg paid my grandson in Buttigieg's campaign? He worked for Buttigieg when I was working for Biden. He did a great job for Buttigieg.
For your campaign.
I decided to hire him to work for me.
Okay.
And he did work for me. You know, I've never seen anybody criticize John Kennedy because his brother Bobby Kennedy ran his campaign. When Bobby Kennedy ran John Kennedy's campaign, everybody thought that was a great idea. So when white folks do it, it's all right. So if I get my grandson to run my campaign, which was a successful campaign, I thought it was a good idea. So he worked for me, and I pay him. I'd rather pay him to do a good job than to take a chance on somebody who don't know who I am to run the campaign, and they may not do so well.
But you allegedly funneled 6 figures worth of campaign cash.
That's not campaign cash. If you work for me, I'll pay you. So I'm not supposed to pay my grandson when he works for me? If you were working for me, I would pay you. And that's all right. But if my grandson works for me and I pay him, that's not all right. Come on, get a grip on what you're saying.
And lastly, as we sit here right now, are you going to seek re-election in the next 2 years?
I have no idea.
United States Congressman Jim Clyburn, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you
do some good research.
I always do, sir.
All right.